Takumi's family enters the Nina town, and Takumi points out Snow to his little brother Seiya. The family stops the car on Seiya's insistence as he rushes out to play in the snow. His mother warns him to stay cautious, and Takumi urges him to hit a snowball at the bird standing in the distance. He carefully aims for the branch and manages to hit it with the snowball, which makes the bird fly away. He then comments that Takumi would have killed the bird if he had thrown the ball because his hits are accurate. Takumi then makes a snowball and hits the branch powerfully. The family then heads back in the car, and soon they arrive at Takumi's grandfather's house, which was their destination. Their grandfather welcomes them, and Seiya comments that Grandpa's spirit seems to resemble the plum tree, which is outside their house. After making the weird comment, the boys head in, and Takumi takes the room which has been allotted to him. He decides to go out for a jog, and his dad shows him the junior high school in the distance. He mentions that their baseball team is not good, and his dad wonders how he will manage to reach national tournaments if he is struggling in district tournaments with such a team. He assures him that he doesn't care about such normie stuff. In fact, he will make a strong team and challenge everybody. He then heads out, and outside the house, he comes across his grandfather, who is burning wood to heat water. He asks him whether he can teach him how to throw a breaking ball, and specifically how to throw a curveball or a sinker. His grandpa explains to him that throwing a sinker at his age will put immense pressure on his elbow, so he should stop focusing on throwing half-baked balls and wait for his body to develop more. He advises him to run up to the shrine after crossing the bridge, and Takumi then takes off running. He crosses the town roads, and after crossing the bridge, he comes across the shrine. He runs up the stairs and then imitates throwing a strike ball. A group of boys walking near him notice his weird behavior, and they show him the fish that they caught. They even invite him to go fishing with them the next time, so he tells them that he is not interested in fishing. A fatso named Gu recognizes Takumi and tells him that his team went to the prefectural tournament last year, and they even saw one of his games during the Chogoku tournament. He reveals that he is just moving to junior high from grade school, and when he offers Takumi to ride in his bicycle, Takumi announces that he would rather run. They both run and ride side by side, and Gu tells him that he lives near his house and that both of their moms used to be friends back in the day. Gu recalls how Takumi's pitch never decreased in speed during one of the matches he saw, and he discusses Takumi's pitch with him. Takumi suggests throwing the ball at him, and this surprises him since he didn't think a talented player like Takumi would play with him. He tells him that he will be able to catch his ball and that he can come by tomorrow morning to play with him. Takumi tells him that he will be busy moving furniture the next day, so he offers to help in moving the furniture, especially because he is big and strong. He then rides away and yells at him not to forget about their arrangement. Takumi arrives home and washes his hands before joining his family for dinner, which contains sukiyaki. His grandpa comments that the running route shouldn't have taken him so long, and his dad comments that Takumi must be tired, due to which it took him time to arrive back at home. Takumi sarcastically asks his dad whether he really thinks he can run slowly, and his mom scolds him for acting so cocky. Seiya touches his hand, which is trembling a little, and assumes that he must have been talking with someone on the way. Takumi shares that he was actually talking to a guy named Gu, and his grandpa tells his mom that Gu is actually the son of her friend. The next day, some movers bring in furniture to the house, and soon Gu's family also arrives at their home. Maki and her friend meet after a long time, while Gu tells Takumi to be careful by wearing gloves. Takumi doesn't like his bossy attitude, and Gu tells him that he is bound to take care of him since they are going to form a battery. Gu helps him move some boxes inside the house and asks him whether he has heard the stories of Koshien pitch from his grandpa. He tells him that he is not interested yet. Gu tells him that he actually used to pester Takumi's grandpa to tell him about Koshien, but he would only tell him to imagine himself playing on that field. He shares that now that Takumi has moved to Nitta, he is bound to form a battery with him. Later, both families eat lunch together, and just when Gu is about to head outside with Takumi to play baseball, his mother tells him that they are actually getting pretty late, so they should go. Gu wants to play, so he tells his mom that he will make it in time for the cram school, and he then heads out with Takumi and Seiya. They all reach an alley where Gu takes out his mitt, and Takumi throws a few slow balls to warm up. Takumi then seriously throws a few balls, and Gu yells at him because he thinks he isn't taking it seriously. In the meanwhile, Takumi's grandpa also comes to watch their dramatic play, while Gu comments that anybody can pitch like Takumi, which pisses off Takumi, and he asks Seiha to bring his cleats. Gu decides to become serious as well, so he takes out his catcher equipment and wears it. Takumi taunts his rich-looking equipment, and Gu asks him that being rich has nothing to do with baseball. Takumi argues back that he shouldn't have taunted him either, and Gu rushes at him to confront him. He yells at him that he is not taking anything seriously and that he can pitch better. Seiha brings back Takumi's cleats, and after wearing them, Takumi throws a fastball at him. Gu tells him to follow his instruction, and soon Takumi starts throwing powerful, speedy balls at him. Initially, Gu struggles to catch any of his throws, but at the fifth, he manages to catch the ball. He then celebrates this, and he tells Takumi that he managed to catch his throws in 5 balls only. They keep practicing back and forth for a while, after which they decide to stop. Seiya tells Gu that he wants to play baseball too, and he gives him his baseball as a gift. Later, Takumi asks Seiya how he knew that he met someone during his run, and Seiya simply replies that he knew he would only get late if he was hurt or if he had met someone. Takumi calls him a Sherlock Holmes, and Seiya tells him that he wants to play baseball, so he will probably join a team. But Takumi tells him that his body is too mid, due to which he cannot play baseball. Still, Seiya insists that he will play baseball and that he wants to beat Takumi. Takumi then heads out for a jog, and his grandpa tells him that Seiya will do fine because he looked like he was enjoying a lot when he was watching Takumi and Gu practice. He tells Takumi that both Gu and Seiya seem to be having fun when they are playing baseball, and Takumi then heads out for his run towards the shrine. Takumi heads out for a jog, and this time Seiya decides to run with him. He tells Seiya that he isn't messing around, and that Seiya cannot possibly do it, but Seiya reminds him that Takumi himself started playing baseball in the 4th grade, so he can do it. Takumi still tells him not to do it, and when his brother doesn't listen to him, he tells him to do whatever he wants since he is on his own. Takumi is then about to start running when he notices that Seiya has crouched down and looks like he is in pain. Talk about the quickest motivation tryout ever. He asks Seiya whether he is in pain and that he told him not to try too hard. Their mom then comes outside and Seiya runs back inside in tears. Takumi carries on with his jogging, and on his way, he comes across Gu's mom, who seems surprised to see him running so late in the evening. She tells him that Gu has recently been very excited after Takumi has arrived, and she then asks him for a favor. She asks him whether he can tell Gu to quit playing baseball, and she explains that originally Gu was planning to quit playing baseball after entering junior high, but now he wants to keep playing, and that he even wants to leave cram school now. Takumi doesn't care about her request, and even comments that it doesn't matter to him, but his mom insists that Gu has changed his mind, due to Takumi since he wants to form a battery with Takumi now. She tells him to tell Go that he is not talented in baseball, which will make him quit playing, but Takumi tells her that Gu is very talented and may be able to form a battery with her, which is a sign of being even more talented. He doesn't listen to her shallow request, and instead goes back to jogging. Early in the next morning, Gu visits Takumi in his home and asks him to come down to play catch with him like some obsessed junkie. Gu tells him that he was actually running when he came across his house, and Takumi jokingly asks him whether he always runs with his mitt. They both throw around the ball a little after discussing that Takumi is not going to throw the ball at full power, and finally, after a while, Gu asks him to throw one last ball at him with his full strength. Takumi warns him that he is not going to take responsibility if the ball ends up hurting him since they are throwing the ball around in the dark. He then throws a fast pitch at him, which Go catches easily, and they both go their separate ways. Takumi gets back home and greets his grandpa, who is also up. His grandfather comments that he is very talented since he can throw any pitch exactly how he wants to, and he gives him old age wisdom that baseball won't always go the way he wants it to. He explains that talented players do not always work together as a team. Later, Takumi's mom brings his uniform to him, and he finds it lame, while his mom wonders whether he is going to fit in the junior high due to his sour attitude. She expresses her anxiety about Seiha too, who even slept with a baseball, and she asks him to talk with Seiha and convince him to quit baseball. He tells her that it doesn't relate to him, and she reminds him that Seiha looks up to him a lot, so it's his responsibility too. She then asks him about Gu's mom's request, and that he should ask Gu to quit, too, so he tells her that he is unsure about Seiha, but he won't ever ask Gu to quit. He even tells her that she and Gu's mom both don't understand anything at all, and his attitude pisses her off. Before she can scold him further, he heads out to meet up with Gu at the shrine. When he reaches there, he notices that Gu is playing catch with Seiha. He interrupts them both, and Go tells him that Seiha is actually pretty good at throwing, and that he may even surpass him one day. Takumi tells him to stop kidding around, and he tells Seiha to go back home since their mom is waiting for him. Seiha argues that he wants to watch the two of them, and Gu supports him, but Takumi argues with him that Seiha should give up baseball since he can never surpass him. Seiha tells him that he doesn't want to surpass him. In fact, he wants to play baseball only. He explains that he actually played catch with his grandfather, who told him that if he really wants to play baseball, he should know that he cannot surpass Takumi, but he should still have fun when he is playing baseball. Takumi insists that he can never play baseball, especially when he gets sick simply after jogging, and he even throws Seiha's ball far away. Seiha runs after the ball, and Gu follows him to help him out. They both keep searching for the ball, and return late after failing to find the ball. Gu promises to search with Seiha the next day, and Takumi then suggests heading to the park for better light since it's getting dark. Gu tells Seiha to rush back home as well, and they both head to the park where they resume playing. Takumi doesn't pitch like he usually does, and Gu tells him that things must be weighing on his mind if he is not pitching seriously. Takumi heads back home, where his mom tells him that Seiha hasn't come back home. He rushes back to the shrine, where he notices that Seiha's bike is still there and that Gu has also come to search for Seiha. They don't find him, so on Go's suggestion, they head to the nearby lake to look for him. They call out for Seiha near the lake, and Takumi comments that Seiha would never come to the lake since he is scared to be alone at such places. Just then, Seiha calls out, and they both discover that Seiha is hiding under a tree at a distance. Takumi rushes towards him, but ends up falling in the lake. He somehow gets out, and Gu scolds him for being so careless. Go then brings Seiha back, and Takumi coldly shrugs him off. Seiha shares that he knew Takumi would come looking for him, due to which he stayed at one position and even fell asleep at one point. Gu points out that Takumi seems like the player who doesn't work well under pressure, and Takumi tells him to stay out of his matters. Somehow, things get sentimental, and Takumi starts to cry like a wuss, because he was too worried for Seiha's safety. Later, Takumi gets a fever, and his mom tells him the next day that a doctor had to come and give him an IV. So he tells her that it won't happen again. Takumi and Gu practice baseball and go fangirls over Takumi's pitches like a little kid. He tells him that he gets really excited when he feels like the ball is coming, and Takumi tells him to stop bringing him the ball after every throw. Afterwards, Takumi tells Gu that he is going to apply to the team, and Gu asks him whether he is going to try throwing curveballs soon. Takumi answers that his grandfather told him not to try throwing any curveballs when he is using soft baseballs, and Gu thinks that plain fastballs are enough for junior high-level baseball. Takumi tells him that he will learn how to throw curveballs when his body is ready for it, so he should be ready to catch them as well. Later, Takumi gives the admission application to his mom and tells her to sign it because he wants to join the baseball team, and she asks him why he has such an attitude. He tells her that it doesn't matter what she thinks, since he will be joining the baseball team no matter what, and even his grandfather tells his mom not to be overdramatic. She tells Takumi that he should at least consider that there are many people who are supporting him. Gu thinks about his future with baseball, and he even considers quitting baseball altogether, but he realizes that he cannot see anyone else forming a battery with his bestie Takumi. He wonders why he had to meet up with Takumi in the first place. The next day, Takumi goes to his school for the first day, and a student council student asks him to close his jacket button. When Takumi doesn't listen to him, he tries to grab Takumi's arm, and Takumi yells at him not to touch him. He ends up taking Takumi to the faculty office, where a teacher asks Takumi to give him whatever is in his pocket. Takumi sarcastically tells them that he has a pistol in his pocket, and his teacher ends up forcing the baseball out of his pocket. He tells Takumi not to bring useless stuff in the school, and Takumi argues with him that it does relate to the school. The teacher then checks out his hand, and after Takumi takes off his jacket, the teacher checks out his build and muscles as well. He asks him various questions about his routine and who is training him, and Takumi tells him that he was in the Little League team previously. He also hands in his joining application, and his teacher asks him whether he really thinks joining the club will make him give the ball back to him. Takumi shares that the ball is important for him, so the teacher ends up giving it back to him with the advice that he should never take it out in the school and he shouldn't throw it around in the hallways. He lets Takumi go, and outside the faculty office, Gu and some of his friends meet up with Takumi. They tell him that the teacher that scolded him is actually Tamura, who is the baseball coach. Just then a gloomy guy passes by them, and the others tell him that the gloomy guy is actually the vice captain of the baseball team named Nobunishi, who is also the catcher. Tamura looks at the student questionnaires of another class, and he observes that the form which Takumi filled doesn't contain much information about his hobbies, interests, or friends. He notices that Takumi's form has the name Coach Ayoka, who used to be the coach of the Nitta High School baseball team, and he shares this piece of information with another teacher that Takumi is actually the grandson of Coach Ioka. Since Tamura himself used to be in a junior high baseball team coached by Ioka, he recalls that Ioka quit all of a sudden back in the day and that his team wasn't that good either. The baseball club members practice throwing some balls, and the seniors gather them up. The captain Kaionji tells all of them that they are starting batting drills and that the first years will just pick up balls. Before they can begin, Tamura picks out Takumi and tells him to try pitching with Nobunishi as the catcher. He tells the others that they can try pitching too if they want, and soon, Takumi takes the pitch. He throws ball after ball towards Nobunishi, but he fails to catch any of his fastballs. He then throws a peculiar fastball, which ends up hitting Nobunishi, and he takes a break before proceeding further. Tamura decides to act as his catcher instead, and Takumi asks him whether he can choose a catcher of his own choice. Go's friend wonders whether Takumi intentionally made Nobunishi quit just to get Go in the game, but Gu tells him not to say such things. Go joins Takumi and wears the protective gear first. He takes his position, and soon, Takumi throws his first ball at him. He throws the second ball even more powerfully, and once Tamura realizes his talent, he asks Kaionji to act as a batter, and he tells him that he doesn't have to hit if he doesn't want to. Gu tells Takumi to follow his signal to throw the ball where he will signal him, and when Kaionji takes his position, Gu makes him throw the ball near Kaionji's leg. Go catches the first ball and the second ball as well, while Kaionji fails to hit the ball. Before Takumi can throw the third ball, Tamura stops him and then tells them to go to the outside field to pick up balls like all the other freshmen. When Gu tries to talk back, Tamura tells him to just listen to him and even calls him cheeky. Before the drill can begin, Tamura advises Takumi that he shouldn't throw the ball so fast at his age. Rather, he should focus on strengthening his legs and stamina. Takumi agrees to listen to him, and Tamura then tells him to cut his long hair as well. Takumi finds this unreasonable since he thinks that his hair doesn't have anything to do with baseball, and he flat out refuses. Tamura calls his attitude full of crap and tells him to go bald. After the practice, Takumi walks back home with Gu and his friends, and he tells Gu that he won't cut his hair. The others advise him to listen to the coach, or else he won't let him play in the team. Gu also insists that he should follow the coach's instructions, but Takumi just calls him stupid for being so serious. He tells him that he won't listen to Tamura's orders at any cost, and that Tamura would ultimately have to listen to him if he wants to get his team to the prefectural tournament. The others discuss that Tamura may not care about winning, or that he may even say that Takumi's attitude isn't working well with the team, but Takumi doesn't budge from his original stance. Gu asks him what he will do if Tamura still refuses to let him play, and Takumi answers that he will then stop playing. Gu reminds him that Tamura will not let him play in the upcoming years as well, but Takumi doesn't seem to care about any of this. Gu becomes angry and he pushes Takumi around for being so selfish. The others barely manage to pull both of them apart, and Gu then walks away after calling Takumi the worst person he knows. After Gu is gone, his friends tell Takumi that they have never Gu this angry, even though they have been friends with him since preschool. They tell him to apologize to Gu and that it doesn't matter who was at fault. But at this stage, Takumi needs Gu to form a battery because nobody else can catch his balls. Takumi refuses to listen to them and he walks back home. When he gets back home, his grandpa Ioka comments that he looks really tired, but Takumi doesn't make a quirky reply back like the usual. Ioka comments that he must have had a lover's quarrel with Gu, and that the bruise on his neck is pretty visible. He advises him to hide the bruise from his mom, and Takumi asks him whether anyone can guess how much someone is practicing by feeling their muscles alone. Ioka tells him that someone can't guess how much a junior high boy is practicing by feeling his muscles, and that whoever told him must be bluffing. This doesn't convince Takumi, so Ioka tells him that it's really hard to guess anything about kids his age, and he even gives him an example of a boy who scores 3 home runs, shockingly, just because his girlfriend came to watch his game. Takumi tells him about his coach Tamura, and Ioka recalls that there was a junior high starter named Tamura, who was very talented right around the time when he quit being a coach himself. Takumi tells him that Tamura is a big nag who only sprouts nonsense, and Ioka notices that Takumi is whining a lot even though he usually doesn't say anything good or bad about anyone else. Later, Seiha asks Takumi whether he is feeling okay, and when Takumi asks him what he means, Seiha comments that he looks really sad, and that he must have had a fight with Gu. Takumi asks him who told him, and Seiya comments that it's obvious by his sulky face. Takumi walks out, and the next day, Gu's friend tells Takumi that Gu isn't talking to any of them either, even though they told him that his fight with Takumi doesn't have anything to do with them. He asks him to apologize to Gu again, but Takumi doesn't listen to him. Afterwards, they are all practicing throwing the ball when it starts to rain, and Kayonji tells everyone that practice is over. Takumi tells that it's hardly raining and that they may even have to play official matches during the rain as well, so they should continue. But Kayonji and Nobunishi remind him that they are the big boss in Tamura's absence, so he should listen to them. Everyone gets dismissed, and Nobunishi tells Takumi to not step out of the line and to listen to his seniors. Some other senior players also surround him, and Nobunishi then grabs him from behind. They all comment that he should have listened to Tamura when he told him to cut his hair. Just when things get really heated up, Gu comes and asks Nobunishi for the key to the equipment room. Nobunishi throws him the key, and Gu then takes Takumi with him to the equipment room. Takumi tells him that he should come to save him sooner, and Gu asks him whether he even wanted to be saved. Of course, the edgelord Takumi says no, and Gu tells him that should stop getting into such petty trouble and should listen to the others. Takumi declares that he will listen to anything important that is told to him, but he won't be bossed around. Gu is about to leave, and Takumi asks him to play catch with him in the rain. He looks really excited, but Gu tells him that he won't let him boss him around either. He walks out, leaving Takumi behind in a sulky mood. The next day, everyone does practice as usual, and Tomura then calls Takumi to him. He asks Takumi whether he plans to quit, and when Takumi says no, he asks him why he hasn't cut his hair. Takumi refuses to listen to him, and he tells him that he won't let him play in a game. He explains that he can't put him in the game when he refuses to listen to his instructions, and Takumi yells at him that he won't listen to his stupid orders since they don't relate to actual baseball. Gu comes to defend him, and Kayonji asks Tamura to try to bat against Takumi's pitches to test him out. He believes that Takumi's pitches are too good, and Tamura agrees to listen to the team captain. Nobunishi tries to step in, and Tamura asks him whether he has a problem with him now too, which makes him back off. Tamura decides to let Gu act as the catcher to test the battery duo out, and Go's friend comments that Tamura seems like a nice guy if he is willing to let them play like this. Everyone takes their position, and on Go's signal, Takumi throws an outside ball. Tamura doesn't hit it, and he then asks Gu whether Takumi threw the outside ball on his instructions. Go reveals that he did, and Takumi throws the second ball in the same way, which Tamura doesn't hit. At the third ball, Tamura hits the ball, and the ball touches the outside net, which makes it a foul. Tomura tells Gu that any batter will try to hit the ball once they know where the ball is coming, and Gu argues that his hit was a foul because he swung the bat a little late due to the fast speed of Takumi's pitch. Tomura calls a few players to him and tells them that they are going to let Takumi and Gu practice pitching after their usual practice. He says that will decide whether to put Takumi in the game or not when the time comes. Later, Tomura visits Takumi's house, and Seiya meets him at the gate. Seiya correctly guesses that Tomura must have come to meet Ioka, and he tells him that Ioka is actually heating the bath at this time. He then takes him to meet Ioka, and Tomura introduces himself to him. Tomura tells him that he really wants to coach Takumi, but his attitude is too defiant, due to which he wants him to ask Takumi to tone down his attitude. Ioka, in return, asks him whether he goes to each of his students' house with such pathetic requests, and Tomura says that he only came because he thought Takumi would listen to Ioka. Ioka reveals that Takumi actually doesn't listen to anyone, and that he can probably pitch like he wants to because of this trait. Tomura then begins venting about how his team did everything according to Ioka's instructions in high school, but when Ioka left, they thought he gave up on them, and it was proven when they all lost the net tournament. Seiya tells Tomura that Ioka left because of his grandmother, who was sick, and that Ioka was with his grandmother till the very end. Ioka comments that he never told Seiya about any of this, and that he should teach Takumi how to have fun while he is playing baseball, rather than making him a winning machine. In the meanwhile, Takumi and Gu carry on their practice as usual, while Nobunishi watches them with a sinister expression from a distance. Takumi and Gao keep up their practice till Kaiunji tells them to pack up. He tells Takumi to lock the equipment room, and Gu to clean the clubhouse. Go's friends join them, and one of them, called Sawaguchi, accompanies Takumi to the equipment room, where they both carry the balls and other equipment. Sawaguchi refuses to go inside since he is scared of the dark, and Takumi carries everything inside by himself. He puts all the balls in one basket, and when he comes outside, he notices that Sawaguchi is not there. He slowly goes to the other room where he thinks Sawaguchi may have gone, and somebody pushes him inside in the dark. Somebody then pushes him down at a table, and a few students restrain him, while another puts a bright flashlight on his face. They all tell him to beg for their forgiveness on his knees, but he just tells them to screw off, so they all gag him and pull up his shirt. Somebody then whips his back with a belt, and even then he refuses to ask them to spare him. One of them even brings out scissors to cut his hair, but another student reminds him not to do anything above the neck. They then let him go, and he slips down to the ground. They tell him to stop being so cocky just because he can throw the ball a little, and he calls them a bunch of losers, which earns him another kick. After they are gone, Takumi passes out, and he is discovered by Gu and his friend, who carry him outside. They notice the blood on his shirt, and somehow they drag him outside the school. Takumi then walks with them, and Gu takes him to his house where there is nobody. Takumi almost passes out again when he enters his house, and he tells Gu that they are going to pay for this. Gu tells him to relax and breathe a little to relieve his pain, and Takumi then goes to take a shower. After he is done, he wears Gu's clothes, which are really loose on him, and Gu then treats the wounds on his back. He puts gauze all over his back, and Takumi tells him to not pity him. Gu gives him painkillers, and Takumi decides to sleep a little, so Gu leaves him alone. As Go is leaving, Takumi tells him to not tell anyone else about what happened, and Gu of course agrees. The next morning, Gu reveals that he already called Takumi's house to tell them that he is staying overnight, and he even makes him breakfast to eat. He shares that he has even washed his uniform, and after winning the World's Best Wife award, he tells Takumi that he always thinks ahead when he is doing something. They get to school, and Takumi pulls Gu from his class to tell him that Sawaguchi did not come to the school. Gu tells him that it was actually Sawaguchi who told him that Takumi was in trouble, and Takumi thinks that Sawaguchi should have done something when he was in trouble. He decides to visit him in his house, and after school, they all head to Sawaguchi's home. On the way, Gu's friends think that Takumi suspects Sawaguchi of betraying him, and he tells them that he is just worried for him because he didn't come to school. They don't believe him, and he tells them that he wouldn't have skipped practice if he wasn't worried. They all reach Sawaguchi's house and find him on top of the tree, which makes them think that Sawaguchi is going to jump from the tree. The boys approach him, and Sawaguchi apologizes to Takumi, who yells at him to come down. The others tell Takumi to talk nicely to Sawaguchi, or else he will jump. Eventually, Sawaguchi climbs down, and he tells the others that a group of boys ambushed him when he was outside the equipment room, and warned him not to say anything. He then waited till they were finished with Takumi, after which he ran to get Gu. Since he couldn't face Takumi, he actually ran back home without doing anything. He apologizes to Takumi again, and tells him that he kept thinking about what to do, but he couldn't think of a solution. They all discuss that maybe it was Nobunishi, and that maybe they should report to Tamura, but Takumi argues with them that the team will be shut down, and that he doesn't want to come to school if he can't even get to play baseball. He tells Sawaguchi to come to practice, and the next day, Tamura notices that Takumi isn't throwing balls with his usual vigor. He asks him why he is slacking and why he skipped practice, but Takumi doesn't give him a proper answer. He then tells Takumi to throw the ball properly to avoid any injury, and that he is going to let him start the first game in the next tournament. Takumi tells him that Nobunishi cannot catch his balls, so Gu should be his catcher, and Tamura comments that Nobunishi also said something similar, which made him wonder why he is disobeying him. He notices that Takumi is sweating a lot, so he tells him to stop practicing for the day. Sawaguchi then tells Tamura afterwards about the whole incident, and as a result, he confronts Nobunishi, who apologizes to him. He tells him that he lost his temper, and he reminds him that they have all worked hard for 2 previous years, and have listened to all of his instructions, even when they hated to play baseball. He asks him to look the other way, and Takumi walks up to him. He asks him whether he hates baseball, and Nobunishi shares that he doesn't like or dislike it. In fact, he only wants to keep playing for the high school application. He then taunts Takumi about being so cocky, and then walks away after telling them that Kayonji wasn't involved with them. The next day, Takumi gets called to the principal's office, where Gu and Kayonji are already present. The principal shares that he has already talked with Nobunishi and Tamura, and that he wants Takumi to let the school handle this matter rather than involving the police. He reveals that Nobunishi will stay at his home for now, and that since this seems more of a baseball team issue rather than a school issue, he is ceasing the baseball club from carrying on any activities for a while. Kayonji reminds him that a tournament is coming up, and he replies that they will probably have to withdraw from the tournament. Kayonji argues with him a lot, but he doesn't listen to any of them. When they leave his office, Takumi suggests that they should keep practicing, but Kayonji tells him that they may even suspend the club if they keep practicing. Takumi whines that he wants to keep playing baseball, and Kayonji gives him the key to the equipment room. He shares that he cannot join them because he has an entrance exam next year, because of which he doesn't want to go against the school. They all gather after school to practice, and surprisingly, Kayonji joins them. He gives them orders to practice as usual, and as they are all running laps around the ground, one of the players tells Takumi that he wants to try batting his pitches. Soon the speaker announces that the baseball practice is canceled, so all the players should stop practicing, but nobody listens, as Takumi and Gu get ready to play catch again. Takumi gets ready to practice while his mom and Ioka argue about the offering they want to give to Ioka's dead wife. Just as Takumi is going, his mom asks him whether he was involved with the baseball team incident, and he asks her why she would ask him anything like that after so long. She comments that he seems depressed, and he replies that the team has been suspended, due to which he is depressed. She doesn't let it go, and comments that he has also lost weight. She proceeds to touch his shoulder, which triggers him, so he brushes her hand off and goes out, making her yell that she won't mention it again. Takumi and Gu meet up to practice, and Gu thinks they should hurry up since it's going to rain soon, judging by the upcoming dark clouds in the sky. Just when they are warming up, Tamura walks up to them and asks Takumi to pitch to him. Takumi wonders whether Tamura can even catch his mighty pitches, and this makes Tamura call him a cheeky, self-obsessed kid. Takumi pitches a few balls to Tamura, which makes him question whether Takumi is even seriously throwing the ball at him, and Gu tells him that the next throw will be a serious one. Tamura tells Takumi to throw the ball right down the middle and to show him his fastest pitch yet, so Takumi throws a mighty fast pitch at him, which takes Tamura by surprise. Takumi then throws 2 more pitches in the same way, and afterwards Tamura tells Gu that he was ready to laugh at Takumi's pitches, but he has impressed him. He calls Takumi to his side and tells him that he is still a junior high kid who doesn't know much about anything, and he keeps trying to humble him. But Takumi argues with him that Tomura also lost the chance to coach their baseball team, and that it should be his loss too. He asks him whether he wanted to see an official game where Gu and he would act as battery, and Tomura tells him that he will get the club activities resumed in a short while, so they should both stay in shape. It starts to rain, and Takumi tells his coach that he won't listen to anything that he has to say ever again, to which Tomura argues that he still doesn't know a lot of things about baseball, including how to have fun. He declares to Takumi that they are going to go to nationals next year, and in return, Takumi declares that he is going to be the one who is going to take him to nationals next year. Later, Takumi meets up with the principal and requests him to ask the principal of Yokoti Junior High School to let them play against their team. The principal comments that Yokoti Junior High's team won the district tournament last time with 8 scores lead, and that it's impossible for their principal to agree, but still, Tomura insists that he really wants to arrange a match. The principal advises him not to rush things, especially since the baseball team doesn't belong to him alone. Later, Takumi gets a call from Kaionji that Tomura wants to talk to everyone after the opening ceremony the next day, and that the team may be becoming operational again. He reveals that he may have to contact Nobunishi's group too, and Takumi comments that he can tolerate Nobunishi's group as long as he gets to play baseball again. Gao rushes into his house to give him the good news about the team as well, and Seiha meets up with him excitedly. Gu starts complimenting Seiha's increased weight, and Seiha, in return, tells him how he has been eating all of his food and vegetables, which makes his mom comment that Seiha acts like a spoiled child around Gu. The next morning, Tomura gathers everyone and apologizes to everyone for letting the team slip away. He reveals that they can resume club activities from now on, and that even though the seniors should retire around this time, he wants them to continue because he wants them to play a formal match for the last time since they couldn't even play in the district tournament. He reveals that he wants them to play a match against Yokota High, but the school hasn't agreed till now. Nobunishi gets triggered out of nowhere as usual, and he hands in his resignation letter to Tomura. He announces that the only reason behind his leaving is that he hates Takumi, and when Tomura confronts him that it's a stupid reason, he tells him that he didn't like teamwork in the first place. He tells Tomura that he always preaches to everyone that teamwork is more important than anything else. But does he really think that Takumi believes in such a thing? Takumi steps out from the group, and he asks Takumi whether he really wants the team to improve. Takumi answers him that he wants to throw the best pitch that he can, and getting frustrated, he starts to leave. Kaionji runs after him and tries to stop him, but he only apologizes to Kaionji and leaves. Tomura also starts to run after him, but Kaionji stops him and shares that he has always known that Nobunishi has been putting a lot of strain on himself, so they should let him go. Kaionji then asks Tomura what would happen if Yokoti High were to request their school to play a match instead. Later, he discusses with his team that he intends to talk directly to Yokoti High's Captain Katawaki, and the others comment how other high schools are trying to recruit Katawaki. Kaionji comments that he talked a bit with Katawaki during the last district tournament, and that the plan is to make Takumi strike him out, which will make Katawaki want to take revenge against their team. Takumi agrees to their plan, even though others warn him that Katawaki is a really good player, and Gu assures them that Takumi will be able to strike him out easily. Later, Kaionji calls Takumi at his house to let him know that they are going to Yokoti Central Park in 2 days to face Katawaki. Takumi agrees, and Kaionji reveals that he told Katawaki that there's a pitcher with a speed of 140 kilometers per hour who will strike him down, which made him agree to their arrangement. 2 days later, Tomura takes the boys to the park, where they meet up with Katawaki, and he tells Kaionji that all the seniors around him are crazily studying for their exams, but since he is entering high school on sports scholarship, he was feeling bored. He observes Takumi warm up and comments that he doesn't believe everything that Kaionji said, but he can see that Takumi is the real deal. The players take their position, and Takumi throws the first 2 pitches, which Katawaki fails to hit, so he gets 2 strikeouts. Katawaki asks Gu whether Takumi is following his signals and that he should make him throw his fastest pitch to test him out. Go agrees and signals to Takumi to throw a fast pitch, so Takumi throws a very fast pitch. Katawaki fails to hit the ball, and the ball bounces from Go's mitt to Kayonji's shoulder. Go then runs up to Takumi and tells him to throw the same pitch again, but Takumi notices that Go's hand is shaking. Up next, he throws a slightly slower pitch, which Katawaki manages to hit and make a home run. Gao runs up to Takumi and demands to know why he didn't make the same pitch just like last time. Takumi comments that he did, but Go doesn't believe that Katawaki would have been able to hit a home run if Takumi had pitched properly. He asks Takumi whether he was afraid that the pitch wouldn't be caught, and in the meanwhile, Katawaki also asks him whether he pitched seriously. Takumi lies that he did, and they request Katawaki to hold a formal game between their teams. Takumi even shows off that he will take him down in an official match, and Katawaki agrees to arrange a match whenever he can. He even comments to Kayonji that his first years are pretty cocky and that they should all sort out their problems. Tamura drops Go at his home and then asks Takumi why he didn't pitch properly. He assumes that he was afraid of hurting Go, and he comments that he should have trusted Go, because even if Go weren't able to catch it, he would have been able to adapt and catch it at the next try. He then calls him a kid for thinking so shallowly and tells Kayonji that Takumi is going to be really troublesome in the coming time. Katawaki goes to his teammate and friend Shun and tells him how he got bested by a freshman kid, which Shun finds hard to believe. He tells him about his plans to have a formal match with Nita High, and Shun comments that their school will never sign off on this, so Katawaki proposes to hold a match by themselves without involving their schools. Shun agrees to follow his idea, especially since he cannot believe a kid could beat Katawaki like this, and he comments that it must be heck of a player who is able to rattle Katawaki so much. He even becomes eager to play against such a player himself, and they both joke around the whole situation. At his home, Takumi tells Seiha that he won't be sleeping with him anymore since his fever is down, and he tells him to go back to his room. Seiha, in return, asks him whether he has a fight with his bestie Go, and that he always seems really down whenever he fights with Go. He tries to console him that Go really likes him, so he will forgive him if he apologizes once. Yoka then comes to give him the phone, and on the phone, Kayonji tells Takumi that Katawaki has told them to be ready for the game. He reveals that he told Go the same thing, and that he shouldn't let Tamura's words worry him, since a worried battery is only going to get in their way. Takumi then rushes to Go's house and throws a stone at his window like some kind of Romeo. Go appears at the window and then comes down to meet him. His mom asks him where he is going, but he just ignores her and keeps walking towards the street, so Takumi follows him. They both go to the shrine, where Go punches Takumi and tells him that he humiliated him. He asks Takumi to fight back, and Takumi argues that Go is much bigger than him, due to which he can't go against him. Still, Takumi kicks his leg, which makes him lose his balance, and Go keeps on whining about how Takumi pities him for not being a good catcher. He declares that his fight isn't against the principal or Yokoti, but rather, his fight is only against Takumi because he wants to become the best catcher ever who can catch Takumi's shots. The next day, Takumi's teammates tease him about being punched, but when they ask him who punched his face, he tells them that he keeps an elephant at his house and that the elephant punched him. Katawaki arrives at the ground and asks Kayonji whether the last Sunday of the month is okay for the game. He tells him that he cannot request the school for the match, but still the whole team wants to play against them when he told them about Takumi, who claims that he can play a perfect pitch against them. Kayonji agrees, and Takumi declares that he will take them on. Katawaki then warns Kayonji that their team will crush their pitcher's spirit, and Kayonji tells him not to get too cocky. He tells them that he will arrange everything for the match at the Yokoto Park, where they met last time, and that he actually ran all the way to their school. He then goes away, and Kayonji tells Tamura that he will make the others practice for their upcoming match. Finally, the day of the match arrives, in which Katawaki shows Takumi to Shun, and the others make fun of Takumi's skinny build by calling him a princess. Katawaki tells one of his batters to practice swings at the dugout to scare Takumi, and he starts swinging the bat, while Shun notices that Takumi is just ignoring all of them and is leveling the mount. He comments that Takumi has got some balls not to be nervous against their team, while Kadawaki recalls how Takumi pitched against him during their last performance. Shun tells him that they are going to crush him, and he orders 2 of their batters to observe Takumi closely to take him down. The game finally begins, and for the first play, Takumi pitches against the batter, who throws lousy balls back at the field. All of his throws get caught by the fielders, and after 3 strikes, the umpire announces the teams to switch their side. Shun then warns his teammate that Kaionji is the only batter that they have to worry about, since Nida's team is mostly focused on defense. Nida's batters take their position, and they manage to hit all the balls, but the fielders immediately send the balls back. They get out one by one till Kaionji's turn comes. Even then, he also manages to get a run out, and the teams again switch their positions. Takumi strikes out the first batter, and Shun teases Kadawaki that it's finally his turn to have a date with his princess. Kadawaki takes his position, and Takumi throws his fastest pitches ever. Go doesn't catch the first 2 balls, but finally he manages to catch the last ball, and Kadawaki gets a strikeout since he failed to hit any of the balls. Kadawaki goes back to the bench where his teammate comments that he got out due to a lucky fluke, and Kadawaki corrects him that Takumi's throws aren't a fluke. Shun comes to bat next, and he tells Gu to ask Takumi to pitch the same fastballs. He taunts Gu that his pitcher needs a new catcher since Gu won't be able to catch his pitches if he throws more fastballs, and that Takumi seems lost since he can't trust Gu. Takumi then pitches the first ball, which Go catches. He pitches again, but this time Shun manages to hit the ball, and instantly, he starts running to make a run. One of the fielders catches his ball, while the others remain stunned at the fact that somebody actually managed to hit one of Takumi's balls. Shun goes back to this dugout and tells the rest of his teammates that it's not hard to hit Takumi's pitches, but he notices that Kadawaki seems unhappy, so he asks him about it. Kadawaki asks him if he really thinks that Takumi's pitches are that easy to hit, and Shun replies that he will easily destroy his princess, who will not last on the mound till the next time Kadawaki goes to bat, but he tells him to stop saying such things. The game continues, and when it's time to switch sides, Shun says that Takumi is too fragile, but Kadawaki asks him why he feels like that. So he replies that Kadawaki has been blinded by the previous match he had with Takumi, which is preventing him from being able to see things properly. Kadawaki asks him if Nida High is really that bad of a team, but Shun mocks him for asking such a basic question and explains that the problem is their battery, which is not working out properly. As the game continues, more and more batters start hitting Takumi's pitches as he loses his composure, but they still don't manage to score a home run on him, and Kadawaki wonders if Takumi is having an off day. Shun tells him to stop worrying about the opponent pitcher, and explains once again that the battery is the problem, not Takumi, but Kadawaki. Still does not understand what Shun means by that, so Shun just remarks that Kadawaki would not understand because he is a hitter. Takumi keeps giving more runs, and Shun explains that pitchers cannot do anything if they don't have a catcher that can catch their pitches, while Takumi lands a 4th ball, which gives the batter a free walk. Kaionji sends both Takumi and Gu to the dugout, and Shun says that Takumi will now need a long time to return to that mound properly because guys like him are very fragile. Yokoti High's coach suddenly rushes onto the field full of anger, and Shun tries to get him to calm down, but nothing works, so Tamura takes him to the side to have a talk with him. The boys go to Kaionji, who asks them if they can still continue, so Shun explains that their coach is very pissed, so it's not possible anymore, but Kadawaki says that he will try to talk to the coach to let the game continue, but Shun tells him that it's pointless, because all the players are already very scared. Shun talks about how Kadawaki still does not feel fulfilled by this match, so they should hold another one again, because they got to play against a team they themselves wanted to, instead of letting their school choose, and he suggests that they should hold the rematch after the exams. Kaionji agrees, but Shun puts up a condition that they want Takumi to be the pitcher, and Kadawaki goes to the dugout to talk to him, but he grabs him by the collar before dragging him out. He angrily asks him about the way he pitched after talking so big, and if he thinks he just won by striking him out once. Shun asks Gao how long they have known each other, so Gu tells him that they met 6 months ago, and Shun replies that it makes sense why they still don't get along with each other. Gu asks him about how he told Gu previously that he cannot be Takumi's catcher, and Shun replies that he is just dragging Takumi down because he needs a catcher that can go head-to-head with him, not one like Gu, who is desperately trying to keep up. He tells them that they will only ruin each other if they continue staying a battery, and they walk away afterwards. A month later, during practice, Tamura tells Gu to catch his pitches while the rest are running, and after several pitches, he asks Gu how his pitches were. So Gu answers that they were very powerful, but Tamura asks him how they compare against Takumi's pitches. He replies that Tamura pitches like a fielder, which pales in comparison to Takumi's pitches, so Tamura explains that he will have Takumi pitch at 70%, so that anyone other than Gu can catch his pitches too. Gu objects to preventing Takumi from pitching his hardest, but Tamura explains that there is no other way if they want Takumi to stand on the mound again, and Gu points out that Takumi might not agree to that. Tamura states that Takumi has not been getting any pitching practice ever since the match, and his patience must be running out, so he will still pitch even if the catcher is not Gu. He tells Gu to think about quitting because Takumi cannot help him in any way, and he falls to his knees after hearing this, but Tamura apologizes to him for saying something he should not have. Later, Takumi gets a call from Sawaguchi, and the group who tell him that they are coming to his home, which Takumi does not feel so happy about. One of them, named Yoshisada, says that he has some news for them, and reveals that Kayonji asked him if he wanted to be the catcher, but he rejected him because he finds being a catcher very boring. Sawaguchi hands Takumi the phone, saying that it's a call from Gu, who asks Takumi if Yoshisada will be catching for him, but Takumi stays silent until the call ends, and the guys scold him for not answering properly. Kayonji and Shun meet up at the restaurant to discuss their match, where Shun comments that the only one who actually won was Takumi, who destroyed Kadawaki, and he asks Shun if he said anything to Gu, because he has stopped trying to catch Takumi. Shun gets surprised that Takumi is still able to pitch properly, and explains that he saw Kadawaki questioning himself about whether he can hit the ball even before the match started, which became even more prominent after he was struck out. So Kayonji questions if that's the reason Shun messed with the battery. He denies having anything to do with that, and moves the conversation towards the match, before questioning if they can trust Tamura with reserving a field for them, and Kayonji tells him not to worry. Shun talks about how everyone is worried about the exams, except Kadawaki, who is chilling because of the scholarship. And Kayonji asks him if he hates Kadawaki, based on how he was talking, which infuriates Shun, who leaves the restaurant. Outside, he gets a call from Kadawaki asking him where he is, so he tells him about how he came to talk with Kayonji about the match so he can set up a perfect stage for him, because it's the last match they will play together and Kadawaki appears out of nowhere before he can continue. Meanwhile, on the other side, Seiha and Sawaguchi visit Gu to invite him to play baseball with them at the park, along with Takumi, who is waiting there with Yoshisada. And at the park, he scolds Takumi for not going to invite Gu himself. Takumi says that Gu is not his friend because Gu does not see him as a friend either, and Shun appears behind him out of nowhere along with Kadawaki. Takumi tells him to stop calling him a princess, and Yoshisada bickers with Shun because he believes that he is the only one allowed to tease Takumi. Kadawaki asks Takumi how their battery is doing and comments that he wants to play against his pitches properly once more in the upcoming match. He says that he wants to win against Takumi's pitches because he wants to graduate junior high baseball properly, and Takumi should make sure he is in his best form at that time so what happened last time does not happen again. Seiha, Gu, and the rest arrive as Seiha continues to be an annoying kid who asks Takumi to play a match over and over again, and he invites Shun and Kadawaki to play with them too. He asks Gu to catch his pitches this time, and he keeps calling Kadawaki a mister, which annoys him, so he tells Seiha that he is only 2 years older than Takumi. Shun laughs at this, and Gu asks Takumi if he ever played baseball just for fun. But Takumi replies that he is not sure. They all get into positions as Shun is the first to bat against Seiya, while Gu plays as the catcher, and Seiya gets the first strike as Shun does not play seriously, but he hits the second ball, which gets caught, so Yoshisada mocks him. Katawaki comments that Seiya is a good pitcher because he is throwing the ball very low, and the next player also hits the ball, but it goes up, so Gao catches it. Katawaki goes up next, and Takumi advises Seiya to grip the ball more from the center, but Katawaki still manages to hit it long. Takumi gets the ball, as Katawaki runs through the bases and he throws it very fast to Gu, allowing them to run him out before he can return to the home base. Katawaki talks about how that should have been a run, so Shun comments that Takumi's throws are very fast and tells Gu to make sure Takumi is ready by the time of their next match so that he can make Takumi cry on the mound. Gayu tells him that it's not possible to defeat Takumi or make him cry on the mound, and Shun just tells him to be ready for it. Winter arrives soon, and Takumi is on his morning run when it starts snowing, while on the other side, the guys discuss how they are glad that the battery finally got back together. Later, they warm up while Sawaguchi mentions how they will be seniors the next summer, so won't have much time to play at that time, and Kaionji calls the battery to tell them to be free the last Sunday of March, because that's the day they will be holding the match again. He explains that the seniors have already graduated, but they will still play with the same team as last time, and they should be prepared not to crumble like last time. Tamura also arrives before suggesting that Kaionji should hit a few pitches as practice because he has been out to do exams for a long time, so Kaionji gets on the pitch, and Takumi takes it slow for the first few pitches. Go catches all the pitches, but Kaionji asks him if Takumi is deliberately throwing balls. On the next pitch, Go signals him to throw one for real, and Takumi throws a fastball right down the ball, which Kaionji fails to hit. Kaionji decides that he has practiced enough, and Tamura calls for all the starters to play against Takumi's pitches a few times. Kaionji asks Tamura why Takumi was unable to control the ball so much, and Tamura explains that Gu was in self-doubt, before which was the problem, but he overcame that after returning as a catcher. But afterwards, Takumi lost the precise control over the ball that he had previously, which is why he misses so much. Kaionji comments that the last pitch was the fastest one he has ever seen Takumi throw. And Tamura remarks that he still manages to throw a few good ones sometimes, but their battery isn't working out properly. He reveals that even he cannot figure out what the problem is this time, which is why he made Kaionji play against them to see if he could figure something out, and Kaionji replies that it's just a guess, but it might be because his pitches have gotten so strong all of a sudden, which has decreased his control over the ball. Tamura compliments him for figuring that out after a few pitches, but Kaionji replies that Go is the amazing one because he was able to bring out Takumi's full potential, and is the reason why Takumi can go all out without hesitation. The next day, Katawaki goes on a run when he sees Shun and Kaionji sitting by the river, so he goes to them, and Kaionji tells him that he got to experience Takumi's pitches again, but he is unable to properly throw strikes now. He explains that it left him feeling frustrated because he couldn't even touch his pitch properly, which left him in the dust, and he felt frustrated seeing how easily the battery was pitching and catching it. Shun tells Katawaki and Kaionji that they are still very young to be acting so cool, and that they can continue to hate Takumi all they want because they are just being fake. He remarks that Katawaki must have already killed the princess many times in his dreams, but Katawaki says that it's not true, so Shun jokingly questions if he either beat the princess up or had wet dreams about him, which angers Katawaki. He gets up and grabs Shun by the collar while telling him to stop talking, but Shun asks him if he really dreamed about Takumi striking him out because he is that scared of Takumi, which makes Katawaki punch him. Shun tells him that his scholarship might get revoked if the news gets out that he assaulted his teammate, and Kaionji tells him to stop provoking Katawaki while holding him back. Shun tells Katawaki that he is just scared of losing to Takumi, which will shatter all his confidence that took him so long to build and he grabs Shun by the collar again. He tells him that Takumi is still unknown, so he isn't carrying any baggage like Katawaki, who should also play baseball for fun, instead of trying to act cool, while trying to continue being the almighty Katawaki, who never lost. Katawaki starts walking away, but Shun tells him to kneel and apologize to him if he does not want him to tell other people that he assaulted his teammate, but Katawaki continues to walk away. Shun continues to tell him that the reason he is so stuck on Takumi is because he thinks that Takumi will take away all the baggage he is currently carrying, but Katawaki does not stop. Meanwhile, at the Niita High, Gu and Takumi enjoy the weather on the rooftop. When Takumi mentions how Sawaguchi was complaining about how he does not want to be senior or retire from baseball, and Gu asks him if he also thinks about things like that, and he replies that there is no point in thinking about the future. Go objects that it's very normal to think about the future, and Takumi mentions how Go once mentioned that he wanted to go to the Koshien, but Go jokingly replies that he used to think about it a year ago. But now he only worries about how he can be with Takumi in high school too. Takumi asks him why he returned to be a catcher while making a snowball and why he wants to be his catcher again. He returns home later where Seiha complains that something must be wrong with the rice cooker as the rice is not properly. So Takumi checks it and assumes that Yoka must have pressed the wrong button, but the rice cooker looks fine. Yoka admits his mistake and asks them not to tell their mother, but Takumi asks him to give them hush money, which he will use to order some food along with some groceries. He tells Seiha to make a list of things that they need, and Yoka tells him that he sounds very capable right now, so Takumi asks him if he thought that he was only good at baseball. Yoka explains that Takumi just never tried to do anything else, and that he should not be a person chosen by baseball, but instead, a person who chooses baseball. Takumi questions what that means, so Yoka explains that he needs to know first all the things he can and cannot do. Only then can he say that he chose baseball out of all the things he can do, and Takumi ends up leaving the room. Seiha tells Yoka not to worry because Takumi is not mad at him, but Ioka worries if he crossed a line again, and Seiha consoles him by saying that he looks the coolest when he talks about baseball. Meanwhile, on the other side, Katawaki and Shun somehow return to being best buddies after the dramatic fight they had a while ago, and Katawaki asks him if he really thinks that Katawaki cannot beat Takumi. So Shun replies that this is the biggest fault in him, because it does not matter what others think. He advises him to learn from Takumi, who only believes in himself, and Katawaki remarks that Shun is the only one who knows all his faults, but still believes in him. But Shun replies like a mad girlfriend that he does not believe someone who punches him in the face. Katawaki asks him why he rejected the sports scholarship, and Shun replies that he must have learned about it through his mom, who must have gone to Katawaki's mom to complain about it. But Katawaki asks him why he chose a school without a baseball team, even though he could have gone to any school he wanted to. Shun explains that he does not want to play baseball in high school, and that he plans on hanging around while doing nothing. So Katawaki questions if he really hates baseball that much. Shun replies that he loves baseball, but his jaw starts aching because of the perfectly executed right hook that Katawaki landed on his face, and Katawaki asks him if it still hurts, so he replies that no one would be fine after getting hit by a big oaf like him. He apologizes to Shun for hurting him, but Shun replies that it isn't going to make it hurt any less, and Katawaki says that Shun is the only person he ever felt like hitting. He questions why Shun provoked him so much, unlike how he teases him usually, and why he wanted to get hit. But that tongue never knows when to rest, so Shun tells him that he is smarter than he looks. Back at Niita High, the graduation ceremony occurs, and Kaiunji meets Takumi, who sees him holding flowers, so he comments that he didn't know Kaiunji was so popular, but Kaiunji reveals that they weren't from a girl. He asks Takumi if he is serious about the upcoming game, so Takumi questions if he thinks that he won't pitch seriously during the game, and Kaiunji explains that he just feels like Takumi has never been serious about anything in his life. This angers him, and he clenches his fists, which Kaiunji notices, So he says that Takumi probably would have punched him if he was not his senior, but Takumi argues that is not true. Kayonji asks him if he thinks that Kadawaki is a great hitter or not, and Takumi just replies with a plan, yes. So Kayonji questions if that is all he thinks of him, but Takumi does not understand what he means by that. Kayonji bluntly tells him that he will lose as he thinks that he and Gu should be more scared of Kadawaki because he is very serious about the upcoming match and only cares about defeating Takumi instead of winning the match. Takumi replies that there is no point of a pitcher who gets scared of the batter, and he declares that he won't lose to anyone before walking away. Tamura watches the whole scene from the side and teases Kayonji that he just got rejected, but Kayonji replies that he had to say it to Takumi no matter what. Tamura says that there is no point in doing that because it won't make a difference due to Takumi's mentality, but calls Kayonji amazing, which surprises him that he didn't say it about Takumi. So Tamura explains that he's just a conceited little brat, and Kayonji argues that he is a natural-born pitcher. Tamura gets a call from the faculty office, and he tells Kayonji to handle the battery in whatever way he wants until the match, because he promised Shun to let Takumi pitch, so he should also train them until that match. Kayonji calls Shun and lets him know about the talk he had with Takumi and Shun, questions what is the point of saying that before the match. So Kayonji explains that he believes that whoever wants it more wins. They talk about how Kadawaki is only focused on beating Takumi, and Kayonji says that they will win because he would rather win if he is doing it. He explains that he is planning to change Takumi a bit, so they can become a team that can win against Yokote's High, and reveals how the coach entrusted the battery to him, so he will do whatever he can in the remaining week until the match. But he does not know if he has the ability to do that, so that's why he called Shun, to think about how Shun would handle it. He says that this call is his declaration of war to Shun because they will win using their battery even if the other team has Kadawaki. The next day, the team gathers for practice, and Kayonji gives them all a motivational speech, so the seniors share a few words back too. After the practice, Gu asks Takumi why he didn't throw any pitches the whole day, because he has been waiting to catch for him, and Kayonji tells them to get ready to pitch out of nowhere, so Takumi pitches a few balls, along with a few strikes with a powerful final pitch. Kayonji takes Gu to the side and asks him if someone else can also catch Takumi's pitching, and Gu replies that only he can do it. So Kayonji questions if Gu is fine with catching for anyone, but he says that he wants to catch for Takumi only. Kayonji remarks that Takumi would be able to pitch fine no matter who catches, and that is how a real pitcher should be, so Gu should be more free too. Sawaguchi tells Gu that Takumi is calling him to come ride back home with him, so he goes to the back, where Takumi tells him to pedal, because he wants to be a passenger princess, and on the way, Takumi asks him about his talk with Kayonji, so Gu asks him if he is fine with pitching to anyone. Takumi explains that it does not matter to him who catches the ball, so the reason he is with Gu is not because he is a catcher, but Gu suddenly says that Takumi has never caught his own pitch, so he don't know what it feels like, and that he won't let anyone take away the feeling he gets from catching Takumi's pitches. Gu starts riding home, and Takumi tells him that he wants to climb the big tree outside Sawaguchi's house after the match, which makes Gu laugh as he leaves. That night, Takumi dreams about a baseball that tells him to grab it and warns him not to choose anything over it. The next day, Kadawaki asks Shun what he talked about with Kayonji, and Shun answers that it wasn't something he has to know. So Kadawaki objects that it must be something related to the match, which he must know. But Shun mocks him that he only cares about beating Takumi, not about the match. He questions if Kadawaki has thought for a single second how they will win or who will start, but Kadawaki says that Shun has gotten more short-tempered lately, just like how he was when they were kids, even though they are still 16-year-old kids, and Shun tells him to save such talks for when they get old. Kadawaki says that he likes it this way more because Shun feels closer to his real self now, and Shun calls him a masochist for liking such a thing. He tells Kadawaki to wipe off his sweat and punches him in the stomach while he does so, before saying that they are even now so. Kadawaki asks him what his problem is. He tells him to stop acting like he knows the real him, because he has never shown his real side to Katawaki and that he hates him. So, he even wishes sometimes that he just disappears, but it is not Katawaki's fault that he never knew about it. He walks away after saying that, and the day of the match finally arrives. So Takumi leaves his house on the bike toward the field, where Yokoti High's regular starting pitcher asks Shun why he is not starting this time. Shun tells him that it's because it's dangerous to send him first because his shoulder is injured, which surprises the starter because he never told anyone about it. So, Shun explains that he has been keeping an eye on him. He further explains that Nita High must be prepared to face his fastballs already, because they have Takumi's pitches to practice on, so they cannot take the risk while he is injured, and the pitcher decides that Shun is right, so he goes to sit down quietly. Yoshisada comes running over to hand him their lineup, so Shun asks him how their battery is doing. So Yoshisada begins talking about how they are fine, except Takumi's bad aim, but the new captain, Nonamura, arrives to stop him from revealing more information to the opponent. He tells Shun that it's really fun having such a battery on their team before leaving with Yoshisada, and Katawaki says that he didn't notice their starter's injury either. So Shun explains that he wouldn't have brought it up if they were not up against Takumi. Katawaki says that they have already talked enough about Takumi, and that the reason the match was ever able to happen in the first place is Shun, whom he has been keeping an eye on too. They get ready to warm up, and Tomura meets Yokoti High's coach named Ika, who reveals how Katawaki came to him to ask for a match against Niita High because he wanted to face their pitcher, but he rejected him at that time, and he came to watch their new battery this time. He mentions how Nita High will be their biggest opponent during the upcoming tournament, so he wants to watch them a bit, so Tomura leaves him to watch the match. Ioka also arrives along with Seiha, and Ioka asks him why he is not in the dugout, so Tomura explains that it's just a match between the players this time. The principal of Nita High comes to greet Ioka and reveals that he used to be glued to the TV every time Nita High used to go to the Nationals while Ioka was leading them because he loves baseball even though he did not have the body to play baseball himself. Seiya objects that a person can still play baseball if they love it, no matter how frail they are, and declares that he will surpass Takumi one day. Both lineups face off as the match begins, with Takumi landing 2 strikes and 2 balls, alternatively, and on the 5th pitch, the batter manages to hit it, but he gets run out. The next batter gets run out on the 1st pitch too, so Shun comes up next, and he tries to shake Gu's confidence by mentioning how they crumbled last time, but Gu maintains his composure. Takumi throws the ball seriously, but misses the strike zone on the 1st pitch, and Shun manages to bunt it on the next pitch, but gets run out very easily. They switch sides, and the first Niita High manages to reach the next base, while the second one gets caught, so Kaiyanji goes up next and hits the ball towards the outfield before running at full speed. He manages to reach the next base, but the first batter gets run out instead, right before they could get a run. They switch sides again, and Katawaki finally steps out to face off against Takumi, who does not hold back on the speed, but misses the strike zone by a mile. Before the next pitch, Gu gives him a signal, so Takumi throws the ball differently, which adds a lot of spin to it. That's it for today, my fellow sports anime fans. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more.